Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Wednesday, November 13th, 2024, and today's topic will be creative flow and creative blocks. And I originally wanted to call it sketching textures from imagination. So before we get to all of that, welcome back. If you're returning, welcome. If you're new, I sketch and post every day, and I start 5-minute timers and use 5-minute timers in order to stay focused and to build a daily sketching habit. So I'll start one now. And so yeah, let's begin. So I ended up wanting to call this creative flow and creative blocks, and I want to deconstruct that because originally I was wanting to do a video about textures and like sketching them from imagination, and part of that is because I've been sketching mountains from imagination, so let's just kind of start with that. Or maybe like a rock kind of thing. Like we're on the mountain now. We are seeing rocks and boulders. So part of texture, and I'll kind of circle around to this idea of creative flow and creative blocks, because it might seem like, oh, well, you're not, well, I'm feeling both. I'm feeling flow. I'm not feeling blocked, but they kind of go together like yin and yang, which is fitting because light and dark is important for sketching and art. So in some ways this will be a sketching video talking about technique and demonstrating it, but it'll also be kind of philosophical because of the topic. And so I'm just gonna flow, basically. I'm going to just sketch, which is a form of creativity, and just flow with it, let it flow. And also sketch textures from imagination. And it's a little bit easier because I had already been drawing mountains in the previous videos this week. So I won't talk too much about these techniques, although I can go into more detail at some other time. But yeah, I wanted to call it creative flow because, one, it's not always under your control, but it's like something that you want. So that's really where practice comes in, and that's really where habits, which they're not the exact same thing. So I'll just deconstruct like what happened this morning for me. So what's happening right now is that I'm doing the daily sketching routine, as I call it, and I set a 5-minute timer, like I said. And so you could just do that yourself. Like, you don't need me to do that kind of thing. And for a while, that's the way I did it. I just kind of did that for myself. And I've talked about how if that seems like a lot, and that kind of goes with like the creative block. If you are feeling this, creative block, then, which is kind of fitting that I'm drawing this boulder here. If you are feeling that way, then yeah, set a timer for 1 minute, or you could have something very specific, like I'm going to sketch this rocky texture, and it could be from a picture. You could sketch something from life, such as, for example, I have something plastic, like a pencil holder, and it's got like a basic shape, so I'm just gonna do that. Just draw something basic. So that's 5 minutes. I'll start another one. So it may not be like a full-blown creative block. And I'll just kind of talk about my experience with that, because I feel like, I mean, I call it a creative block, but it could be an artist block or a writer's block. But basically, it's when you, I mean, it's not limited to that. But really, it has to do with when you want to create something, which is to say, work on a project or materialize something, have a goal in mind, and you're blocked. You're not able to create it. And when it's blocked, like, you have to accept that it's just blocked. And so maybe a good analogy is like a pipe, where when it's blocked, the more you turn on the water, the more it's going to overflow, like back up. Like, it's not a good idea. So usually you have to turn off like the water in order to work on it, like work on the pipes and stuff. So that might be it. That might be where you have to just kind of let go, which can be difficult, of like trying to do the thing, trying to create, and just accept that it's blocked for whatever reason. And that's a block. And there's usually a reason. I mean, it's all kinds of reasons. And I'm thankful I'm not blocked, but I've been through it. And if you are blocked, then one, my videos can be encouraging. I mean, I approach it in that kind of way, in sort of an encouraging and relaxed kind of way, because I do understand about blocks. But yeah, I mean, if you are blocked, certainly take care of yourself, and you're not gonna, like, anything that's making you feel like anxious is not gonna help. And yeah, you just kind of have to give it time. And I'm the type of person that I kind of have to always be doing something, so I don't like it when I have to just be still, but it is helpful. I mean, it's important. And if you're sick, so yeah, I mean, I've had to learn to kind of let myself heal, and I think the more that I do it, the more that I'm kind of amazed at healing, at how it works. And a lot of times, like, I'm the one that's getting in the way. So really, healing will take place as long as you don't do something to get in the way of it. So this is just something that was on my desk, a pencil holder. but maybe in between the creative flow. So let's represent the flow as waves. The blocks could be maybe this block. And then there's resistance, which is kind of a just not a smooth flow, in other words. And so it's good to figure out, like, is it blocked? Is there an actual blockage? And if so, you kind of have to deal with that. Which is not something that I can really completely help with. I mean, I'm not qualified to do that. So that's 5 minutes. I'll start another 5-minute timer. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why something could be blocked. I guess I can kind of go over a little bit of my experience with it. I mean, without going into details, but like when I was blocked, like creatively, I guess like the truly blocked was probably a few years ago. And yeah, I won't go into detail, but my point is that that's when I knew I was like truly blocked. And it wasn't just personal reasons, but my point is that it was blocked. And I'm the type of person that, yeah, I would attempt to push through it, and it didn't work. And it's just stuff like that. It's similar to healing in the sense that you can't always brute force your way, and maybe you shouldn't brute force your way through healing. So I have this faux, just as an aside, I have this faux wood texture on my desk. It's not real wood. It's wood veneer. I'm just going to sketch it while I speak here. But yeah, so there is a big difference. And when you're blocked, you basically need healing. That's kind of been my experience. It's not something to just ignore, and you really can't ignore it anyway. Because by the time, kind of like the pipe analogy, by the time it's blocked, I mean, you have an issue. And there's also different levels. And then you also gain experience. Now, there was a time where I didn't know what to call it. I just knew that there were times where maybe I wouldn't be doing art. And again, it doesn't have to be like drawing or something. In my case, it tended to be like the main thing, is if I'm not drawing. But then I have a lot of interests, a lot of things I'm passionate about, so like I wouldn't mistake. So for example, there could be times where I'm really writing a lot or working on like a story, and I wouldn't call that creatively blocked. So there's a difference. But yeah, there was a time where I really was, and it shouldn't be like, it should be kind of rare, because it is kind of a major thing, and it usually just means that, yeah, there's just like life stuff you got to work out and figure out and work on, and that's life for you. Now the argument could be, well, I'd rather just not be blocked at all. But then that's kind of like saying, I don't want any challenges in life. It's just not going to happen. It's kind of not good for you, because first of all, there is challenges, and as soon as there's a challenge, you're going to be destroyed. which is not to say you should suffer. So what exactly is suffering? I mean, suffering is like if there is a block and your solution is to like bang your head until you're just hurting over and over, like that's suffering. So don't do that. But like, what is facing a challenge? Because that's kind of where I'm at right now, is sort of facing challenges, which, I mean, it's going to come up a lot. I mean, so it's not enough to just think of a creative block as, oh, well, it's a challenge, because it is a challenge, but it's a block. So it's the difference between encountering a boulder like this and encountering a mountain, which, as I said, is kind of like a life theme for me. But moving on from like the idea of the creative blocks to like resistance, so I'll label this. Sometimes that's what you're feeling, is resistance. That's 5 minutes. I'll start another one. And it could be a lot of resistance, is kind of leaning towards a block. I haven't even made sure that the sketchbook is on camera, but it looks like it is. Or it could be more leaning towards like the flow. So it's good to kind of figure that out. Now, a good way to figure that out is like what a timer is for. So yeah, I mean, if 5 minutes, so for me, 5 minutes is, I still keep a 5-minute timer. But if that seems like a lot, then do 1 minute. Or in my case, I mean, in a sketchbook, you might say, like, that's actually turning into water rather than wood texture. But maybe I guess maybe it kind of looks like water. What was I going to say? Well, if you're going to, like, if 1 minute seems kind of a lot, maybe just, like, I think aim for 1 minute, but like, if that's not the case, then maybe, I personally think that's the best thing, because even if you pick like a topic, if you say, well, I'm going to sketch something like on my desk like this, that could even be a lot. And that means it's leaning more towards like a block, and like it needs, like, there's some healing that has to take place. And by healing, it could be, yeah, like it's like an emotional or psychological kind of healing that has to take place, because it's not obviously the effort involved, it's more of a mental effort. So sometimes that's kind of a lot. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could have like pick something simple to sketch, but I find that even that can sometimes be too much. So that's why I do like the 1 minute timer. And then if you pick a 1 minute timer, then it might be easier to pick something, and then if you draw it for 1 minute, you'll find that it goes by pretty quickly. But then sometimes if there's a lot of resistance, it didn't go by, like it doesn't go by that quickly. So that's kind of like a way of dealing with resistance. But just kind of going back to like why I even am talking about this or calling it creative flow and creative blocks, is because I could have called it sketching textures from imagination, which is basically what I'm doing. Which is kind of surprising that this wood texture looks like waves, but that's kind of interesting. I guess I'll just incorporate it into this picture. Like, I could have called it that, and and it would have been okay, except that there was resistance, and that felt like more of the like what it was actually about. And so that's why I wanted to just talk about it, and I think that would be like the more helpful thing. Although, of course, you might get some help from not only the technique I'm using, but also it may very well help you if you are feeling blocked or a lot of resistance. And then it's also a demonstration of flow, because like now it looks more like wood. But I mean, I guess it would have been okay if it was water. But I think part of it is like the pattern, and part of it is making it look like the desk that it's sitting on. And even though it's not really real wood, I'm gonna pretend that it is. And that's another 5 minutes. So I feel like with a topic like this and the stuff that I was talking about, it would be good to kind of wrap it up and not feel like you have to sketch for a really long time. So with that said, I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. I'll be here tomorrow, and if you like these videos, please support the channel. I always appreciate it, and it's helpful. And until next time, keep on sketching.